So the next subject we're going to be talking about is about the data types. This subject is very important because you're going to handle different data types inside your Python file, whether it's an integer, a float, or a string, or other different kinds of data types such as collections, such as mappings, such as arrays, byte arrays, and so on. There are there's a very big variety of kind of data types, and we also have the conversion of the data types, and there's so many different stuff inside the data type subject and that we're going to cover. And contrary to most of the tutorials, this part is not this part is, however, simple, but it's not an unimportant part of learning Python, because it's true that we're not going to, for example, say that x equals hello world is a string. Okay, this is very easy, but if you don't understand the different kinds of data types, then you're not gonna be successful in handling different parts of them. For example, if you have y equals 3 and 3 is inside the quotation mark, this is a string, and you get it, for example, from Microsoft Excel or from a database, and it's a string, but you want to use it inside some mathematical equations and then print out something else. So how do you want to convert this string into a float or integer? So this is an important detail. However, it sounds very simple, and it is actually indeed very simple, but if you take it for granted and don't care about the details of the data types, you're going to face a lot of troubles. Okay, anyway, let's get started. And so let me omit this part and also create a new file. I'm gonna name it data types.py, and here I'm going to get started with the simplest kind of a data type, which is integer. The next one is float, for example 4.5555, and the third one z equals to Jack, for example, and s equals to we're going to define a list, for example hello and Jack, and 5, and the next one is a number, the other one is a float number. Okay, this is a list containing different kinds of data types, and so we're going to print all of them one by one. Print x, and I'm going to copy and paste this one 4 times, and paste y, z, and s. Let's save this project by pressing Ctrl S, and okay, here we're going to write Python 3 data types .py. Okay, the t is small t. Okay, here we go. We have all of them printed out and you can see them. But there are times that we want to know the type of the variable. For example, we want to know the type of y. So we simply write print type parentheses type parentheses x. Also, we're going to do this 4 more times and do this for y, x, y, and z, and s. Okay, let's save the file and run the project. Okay, as you can see here, we've got the print. This is the class int. So the first one is integer, the second one is float, str, which is a string, and list. Here, as you can see, it represents with the class. So let me just comment all this print here and save it. Run it one more time. As you can see here, it shows in details integer, float, str, and list. Okay, here this function is important because, for example, if you want to know what is the type of the input that you're gonna give, for example, from a kind of an input from the user. For example, it's from an Excel file. You don't know whether it's a number or a string, but most of the time it's a string, and you want to know if it's a string, then you're going to convert it into number. So you're gonna convert it from string to float. So we're going to explain later how we're going to convert string to float and vice versa, but vice versa is only applied when you want to save something inside a kind of a database. Okay, we're not gonna get into more details because you might get more confused, but here we know what float is, integer is, and string is, how to know the type of the certain variables, and how to know the type of the data that we get, and how to mix them all together inside a list. In addition to the data types that I've introduced in the previous parts, there are also other data types such as bool and such as dictionary, such as tuples, and there are so many other kinds of data types that that we're going to teach you in the next parts. But here, because there are a lot of them, and if we talk about some parts of them, you're going to get confused. I'm not going to get into more details about them and get to one of them each of them one by one. Here, in order to just talk about these three types of data, the integer, float, and string, which are some of the most important and useful types of data, I'm going to teach you how you can convert and cast each one of them into the other. So to do so, I create another file called the casting, or I'm going to call it conversion.py. So let me rename it. It's conversion.py. Okay. So here I'm going to use all of these data types, x equals 4, and here instead of jack I'm going to write for example 45.6, and so I'm going to convert z into float. To do so, I'm going to create another file called another variable called float. Z equals float z. Okay, so this is going to convert this string into the float, the real float. So here, if you add 45.6 with y, which is 4.555. They're not going to be added up because one of them is a string, the other one is float. But once you convert the string into float, you will be able to add up the two parts altogether. So let me show you in another print. For example, if you add up the z and y, and after converting z to float from string, we're going to add up them one more time and see what happens before and after the process of conversion. Okay, let's save the project and run it. Here I need to run conversion.py. Okay, here as you can see we face an error and it says z is not float, and so we need to convert it into float. So let me comment this print and see what happens. So right here we have converted z into the float, and then we've added up the two numbers, and here is the result: 45.6 plus 4.555. So let me also print z before and after the conversion. Okay, here as you can see both results are going to tell you that it's 45.6, but if you check the kind of data type, one of them is a string, the other one is float. So let me write it like this so that it becomes a very good practice for you and a very understandable script so that you can refer to later. So here as you can see, both of them are 45.6. One of them is a string, the other one is float, and after converting it from a string to float, you can add up the two numbers. But before that, before the process of conversion, you cannot do that because it's going to show you an error.